6 months after the revelation at the Galactic Council, Premier Diplomat Lim Ha walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime with a confidence that would have been impossible years earlier. Behind her, representatives from 12 allied species formed an honor guard. Civilizations that had once dismissed Earth as primitive now sought human protection and guidance. The galaxy had transformed. The Karath Empire's collapse had created a power vacuum that dozens of species scrambled to fill. But unlike the old days of conquest and dominance, the new order was being built on cooperation and mutual defense. "The Council will see you now," announced the aide. A young Altarian whose species had been among the first to recognize Earth's true nature. Lim Ha entered the great chamber where she had once been an unwelcome observer. Today she came as Earth's first official representative to the restructured Galactic Council. The ceremony would formalize humanity's role in galactic civilization. Supreme Chancellor Vera Thane stood at the center podium, her metallic skin gleaming in the crystal light. Around her, representatives from hundreds of worlds waited to witness humanity's elevation from rejected applicants to founding members of the new galactic order. "Fellow council members," the Chancellor began, "we gather today to formally recognize the species that saved our galaxy from enslavement. The humans of Earth are hereby granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with all rights and responsibilities thereof." The chamber erupted in applause, a very different sound than the laughter that had greeted Earth's first application. Lim Ha stepped forward to accept the ceremonial data crystal that contained Earth's membership codes and voting rights. "However," she said when the noise died down, "Earth must respectfully decline full membership at this time." The sudden silence was profound. Chancellor Vera Thane's 4 eyes widened in surprise. "Decline? After everything that has happened?" "We prefer the role of equal partner rather than ruling member," Lim Ha explained. "Full membership would place Earth in a position of authority over species that were exploring the galaxy when our ancestors were still discovering agriculture. That would be inappropriate." "But your capabilities," protested Ambassador Krell, "your intelligence networks, your defensive technologies, the galaxy needs your leadership." Lim Ha smiled. "The galaxy needs our cooperation, not our dominance. We propose instead the creation of the Mutual Protection Alliance, a treaty organization dedicated to preventing future genocides like those planned by the Korath." The hologram above the chamber displayed a new star map. Instead of the old, imperial boundaries and conquest zones, it showed a network of interconnected systems bound together by mutual defense pacts and trade agreements. "Under this alliance," Lim Ha continued, "every member species maintains sovereignty over their own worlds while contributing to collective security. No empire will ever again be strong enough to threaten entire civilizations." Admiral Park Sua entered the chamber wearing the uniform of the new Interstellar Defense Force. Her presence reminded everyone that Earth's military capabilities were no longer secret. The primitive species now commanded fleets that could protect or threaten any world in the galaxy. "The Defense Force will be jointly commanded by officers from all Alliance species," Admiral Park Sua announced. "Earth will contribute our stealth technology and intelligence networks. Other species will provide their unique capabilities. Together, we will be stronger than any empire." "What about the Korath systems?" asked Dr. Illithid. "Those worlds are rich in resources, but they also contain the consciousness storage facilities. What do we do with 50 million trapped minds?" This question had haunted the galaxy for months. The stored consciousness patterns were still active, still suffering digital torture in the systems their captors had built. Shutting down the storage units would kill them, but leaving them active meant eternal torment. Director Han Wu stepped forward, now wearing the insignia of the Alliance Intelligence Service. "We have a proposal for that as well." The hologram changed to show technical diagrams of modified consciousness storage systems. "Our research teams have developed a way to transfer the stored patterns into simulated environments of their choosing. Instead of torture programs, they could experience digital paradises, virtual worlds where they could live in peace. Is that possible?" Dr. Illithid asked, his tentacles writhing with scientific excitement. "We've already begun preliminary tests with volunteer patterns from recently deceased individuals. The technology works. We can give the Korath victims a chance at digital happiness instead of endless suffering. And the Korath themselves? Asked General Morak. Their consciousness patterns are also trapped in the storage systems. The chamber fell quiet. Justice for the Korath remained a complex moral question. They had planned genocide on an unimaginable scale, but they were also trapped in the same digital hell they had created for others. They will remain in the systems they designed, Director Han Wu said firmly. Not as torture, but as prison. They will experience simulated environments appropriate to their crimes. Not pain, but confinement. They will have time to think about what they did for as long as the universe exists. Forever? Chancellor Verathane asked. Forever, Han Wu confirmed. Some crimes are too great for any other punishment. The ceremony continued with the formal signing of the Mutual Protection Alliance. Species after species added their support to the new order. But the most significant moment came when Kim Day, now director of the Xenological Protection Institute, announced Earth's greatest gift to the galaxy. The Institute will be headquartered on Earth, he said, but its mission extends to every world in known space. We will study, catalog, and protect intelligent species throughout the galaxy. Never again will a civilization be allowed to harvest others for resources or entertainment. How will you enforce this? Asked Ambassador Zeth Ka. Kim Day gestured toward the viewing screens that showed Earth's solar system. What had once appeared to be a single inhabited world now revealed its true nature. Dozens of hidden installations, defense platforms, and ship construction facilities. The same way we stop the Korath, he said simply, by being where we need to be when we need to be there, with the capabilities required to protect innocent life. As the formal ceremonies concluded, many representatives approached the Earth, delegation with questions and proposals. The galaxy wanted to understand how the primitive humans had achieved such capabilities while maintaining the appearance of weakness. The secret wasn't technology, Lim Ha explained to a group of curious diplomats. It was patience. We spent 4 years learning everything we could about galactic civilization while pretending to be harmless. We studied your strengths, your weaknesses, your fears, and your motivations. You were spying on everyone, Ambassador Krell observed. We were protecting ourselves, Admiral Park Sua corrected. When you're the smallest species in a galaxy full of predators, you learn to watch carefully and move quietly. Are your agents still active throughout the galaxy? Dr. Illithid asked. Director Han Wu smiled. That information remains classified, but I will say this. Earth's intelligence networks exist to prevent future genocides, not to threaten peaceful civilizations. The questioning continued for hours, but the most important conversations happened in private meetings throughout the day. Species that had once dismissed Earth now sought defensive alliances. Civilizations that had laughed at human requests for friendship now offered partnership and cooperation. By evening, the framework of the new galactic order was clear. Earth would serve as the unofficial guardian of galactic peace, using its intelligence, capabilities, and military technology to prevent the rise of future empires like the Korath. Other species would contribute their unique abilities to collective security while maintaining their independence. The final ceremony took place at sunset in the crystal gardens of Nexus Prime. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered to witness the activation of the memorial to the harvested, a monument to the 50 million consciousness patterns still trapped in Korath storage systems. Song He stood before the memorial, her presence a reminder of the sacrifice required to stop the Korath genocide. She had given up her identity, her appearance, and 2 years of her life to save not just Earth, but every species in the galaxy. The names inscribed here represent every individual consciousness we have identified in the storage systems, she announced. 50 million souls from 30 species, some trapped for over a century. They will not be forgotten. The memorial's crystal surface lit up with scrolling names in dozens of languages. Each name represented someone who had been torn from their body and imprisoned in digital torment. Each name was a reminder of what the Korath had done and why they could never be allowed to return. But this memorial also represents hope, Song He continued. Starting tomorrow, we begin the process of transferring these trapped minds into peaceful virtual environments. They will finally know rest instead of suffering. As the ceremony ended, Premier Diplomat Lim Ha found herself standing with Chancellor Vera Thane on a balcony overlooking the Crystal City. "Are you satisfied with the new arrangement?" the Chancellor asked. "It's better than what existed before," Lim Ha replied. "The old galaxy was ruled by fear and power. The new galaxy will be built on cooperation and protection. And if in a secure facility hidden beneath the Swiss mountains, Intelligence Director Choi Min reviewed the final reports from the Korath investigation. The galaxy now knew about the consciousness harvesting, the planned invasion of Earth, and the mysterious system failure that had destroyed the Empire. What they didn't know was that Earth had caused that failure. The time had come to reveal the truth. "Bring her up," Choi Min ordered. The elevator rose from depths that officially didn't exist, carrying someone the galaxy believed was dead. When the doors opened, Song Hee stepped out wearing simple clothes and a tired expression. For 2 years, she had been the most successful spy in human history. Now she was about to become its greatest hero. "Are you ready for this?" Choi Min asked. Song Hee nodded. "I've been ready since the day I volunteered for genetic modification." The modification had been extreme, changing her appearance, her bone structure, even her scent to match a Korath slave species. For 2 years she had lived among Earth's would-be conquerors, watching them plan humanity's destruction while she prepared their own. "The council meeting is in 3 hours," Choi Min said. "Director Han Wu will present Earth's findings from the investigation. You'll be our evidence." "What about the others? The agents who are still deep cover?" "They
stay hidden."
"The galaxy isn't ready to learn how extensively we've infiltrated their civilizations. But they need to know about you, about what the Korath planned, and about what we did to stop them." Song Hee walked to the window overlooking the hidden military complex. Below, Earth's secret fleet prepared for missions the galaxy couldn't imagine. Above, the ordinary world went about its business, unaware that it had come within days of total destruction. "Do you think they'll understand?" she asked. "Some will. Others will be afraid. Most will be angry that we deceived them." Choi Min joined her at the window. "But they'll know that Earth isn't as weak as we pretended to be." 3 hours later, the emergency session of the Galactic Council began with unprecedented security. The reports from the Korath investigation had shaken every species in the galaxy. An empire that had seemed immortal had vanished overnight, leaving behind evidence of crimes that challenged imagination. Supreme Chancellor Vera Thane called for order as representatives took their seats. In the observer section, Director Han Wu sat with a small team from Earth. Today, for the first time in 4 years, humans would have more than observer status. "Fellow council members," the Chancellor began, "we have received final reports from the investigation teams. What they discovered changes everything we thought we knew about the Korath hegemony." Dr. Illithid took the central platform, his tentacles moving nervously as he prepared to share discoveries that would horrify civilized beings. The Korath were not simply conquerors. They were harvesters of consciousness, digitally enslaving the minds of those they captured. The hologram showed images from the storage facilities. Thousands of crystalline units containing tortured souls. "We estimate 50 million individuals from 30 species are still trapped in their systems, experiencing digital torture that has continued for decades." The council chamber erupted in angry voices. Representatives shouted in dozens of languages, demanding justice for crimes that seemed beyond punishment. The Korath were already gone. How could they be held accountable? "More disturbing," Dr. Illithid continued when order was restored. "We found evidence of their next planned operation. They were preparing to attack and harvest an entire planetary population." The hologram changed to show star charts and invasion plans. The target was designated as Primitive Test Subject 7A. "We have identified these coordinates as the Sol system, home to the species known as humans." Every eye in the chamber turned toward the Earth delegation. Director Han Wu stood calmly, but several council members could see the tension in his posture. "The Korath plan to harvest every human consciousness on Earth," Dr. Illithid said, quietly. "Men, women, children, all would have been digitally imprisoned and subjected to experimental torture programs. Their bodies would have been destroyed, and their minds would have become Korath property. How close were they to launching this attack? Asked General Morak. According to their military logs, the invasion was scheduled to begin within days of their disappearance. The silence that followed was profound. Every species in the chamber understood what this meant. The primitive humans had been saved from a fate worse than death by whatever had destroyed the Korath Empire. Which brings us to the central question, Chancellor Vera Thane said. What caused the Korath system failure that led to their disappearance? Dr. Illithid's tentacles moved uncertainly. Our analysis suggests sabotage. Someone with intimate knowledge of Korath consciousness, transfer technology introduced a virus into their network. The virus caused cascading failures that trapped the Korath in their own digital prison. Who could have done such a thing? Ambassador Krell demanded. The technology required would be beyond most species in the galaxy. Director Han Wu stood slowly. Chancellor, I request permission to address the Council. You have observer status only, Chancellor Verathane replied. You may not speak in Council sessions. I request emergency recognition under Article 12 of the Council Charter, the right of a targeted species to present evidence of planned genocide. The legal precedent was clear. Any species that could prove they had been targeted for extermination had the right to address the Council directly, regardless of membership status. Granted, the Chancellor said after consulting her legal advisors. Director Han Wu of Earth, you may present your evidence. Han Wu walked to the central platform where he had stood 4 years ago to face ridicule and rejection. This time, the chamber was completely silent. Honored Council members, he began. My species has been observing galactic civilization for 4 years. We came here seeking membership and friendship. Instead, we found that we were being studied as potential victims. The hologram changed to show documents from Earth's intelligence network. For 3 years we have been aware of Korath plans to invade our world. We knew they saw us as primitives, suitable only for slavery and experimentation. How did you know this? General Morak asked. Because we are not as primitive as you believed. Han Wu's voice remained calm, but there was steel beneath the words. We have been watching. We have been learning. We have been preparing. The chamber stirred uneasily. Several species were beginning to understand that Earth's weakness had been carefully crafted deception. 3 years ago, after our rejection from this council, we began preparing for the war we knew was coming. We studied Korath technology. We trained our forces. We placed agents throughout their empire. Impossible, declared Ambassador Krell. Your technology is centuries behind theirs. Our technology was never the issue, Han Wu replied. Our intelligence was. The hologram changed again, showing the transport platform in the chamber's center. The air shimmered, and a figure materialized, someone who should not exist. Song He stood in the center of the council chamber. Her appearance returned to human normal after 2 years of genetic modification. She looked small and fragile compared to the mighty beings around her, but her presence sent shockwaves through the assembly. This is Agent Song He, Director Han Wu announced. For 2 years, she lived within the Korath Empire as a deep-cover operative. She worked in their consciousness transfer facilities. She studied their technology. She prepared for the moment when Earth would need to defend itself. You're claiming this human infiltrated the most secure empire in the galaxy? Dr. Illithid asked in disbelief. Song He spoke for the first time, her voice clear and steady. I didn't just infiltrate them. I worked alongside their scientists. I helped design their consciousness transfer systems. I gained their trust by pretending to be a member of a conquered species who was grateful for the opportunity to serve. And when you learned of their plans to attack Earth? Chancellor Verathane asked. I did what any soldier would do to protect their home. Song He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of beings who had once dismissed her species as primitive. I introduced a virus into their consciousness transfer network. The confession sent the chamber into chaos. Representatives shouted accusations and demands for explanation. Some called for Earth's immediate expulsion from council space. Others demanded to know how many more human agents were hidden throughout the galaxy. Chancellor Vera Thane restored order with effort. "You're admitting to the destruction of an entire civilization?" "I'm admitting to stopping genocide," Song He replied firmly. "The Korath planned to harvest every human on Earth. Every child would have been trapped in digital torture chambers. Every adult would have experienced centuries of artificial pain for Korath entertainment. I prevented that. By trapping them in their own systems, by giving them exactly what they planned to give us. Justice." Director Han Wu stepped forward. "Agent Song He sacrificed everything to save not just Earth, but every species the Korath planned to target after us. Their files contained hit lists of dozens of civilizations marked for future harvesting." "How do we know you're telling the truth?" General Morak demanded. "Because the proof is in the Korath storage systems," Song He. The Korath homeworld had once been called the crown jewel of the Empire. Its golden cities stretched across 3 continents, home to 40 billion beings at the height of their power. Now Captain Yun Hai walked through empty streets where only the wind moved. The investigation fleet had been in Korath space for 2 weeks. Each day brought new mysteries and deeper fears among the alien investigators. Whatever had happened here was beyond their understanding. "Any life signs?" Captain Yun Hai asked her scanner operator as they moved through what had been the capital's central district. "Nothing, Captain," replied tech specialist Beck Rowe. To the other teams, he was just another human technician learning to use advanced alien equipment. In reality, he had walked these streets before when they were filled with Korath citizens and slaves from conquered worlds. The investigation teams moved carefully through the abandoned city. Dr. Illithid of the Science Directorate led the main Ya group, his tentacles constantly sampling the air for traces of what might have happened. General Morak's security team kept their weapons ready, though they had no idea what enemy they might face. "The power systems are still active," Dr. Illithid announced, his translator device making his thoughts audible to the mixed group. "Environmental controls, gravity generators, basic life support, all functioning normally. It's as if everyone simply walked away and forgot to come back." Captain Yun Hai nodded while privately remembering the truth. The Korath hadn't walked away. They had been pulled away, their consciousness torn from their bodies and trapped in digital prisons of their own making. "Captain," Beck Rowe said quietly, "I'm detecting energy readings from the government complex. The main computer cores are still active." This was the moment Captain Yun Hai had been dreading. The government complex contained the Korath's most sensitive files, including records of their consciousness transfer experiments. If the investigation teams accessed those files, they would learn things that could expose Earth's involvement. "Dr. Illithid," she called out, "my technician is detecting activity in the government building. Should we investigate?" The Altarian scientist's large eyes gleamed with interest. "Absolutely. Any active systems might contain records of what happened here." The government complex rose like a black crystal mountain from the center of the city. It had been designed to impress visitors with the power and permanence of the Korath Empire. Now it stood empty, its windows dark except for the faint glow of computer terminals that no one was left to use. As they entered the main lobby, Captain Yun Hai felt the weight of history. 3 years ago, this building had been full of bureaucrats, planning the conquest of primitive species. They had made lists of worlds to attack, resources to steal, populations to enslave. Earth had been on those lists. "Security protocols are still active," General Morak announced, his warrior's instincts making him nervous in the empty corridors. "Automated defenses, motion sensors, access controls, all functional but not activated." "Why would they leave everything running if they plan to evacuate?" asked Ambassador Krell, his reptilian form shivering despite the comfortable temperature. "Maybe they didn't plan to evacuate," Captain Yun Hai suggested. "Maybe whatever happened was sudden." They reached the central data core, a vast chamber filled with crystalline storage devices that hummed with barely contained energy. The Korath had stored the records of their entire empire here: military plans, scientific research, economic data, and personal information on every citizen. "Remarkable," Dr. Illithid whispered, as his tentacles interfaced with the access terminals. Data storage capacity is enormous. They could record the complete mental patterns of every individual in their empire. Back row caught Captain Yunhai's eye and nodded slightly. That was exactly what they had done. The Korath had been secretly scanning and storing the consciousness of their own people, supposedly as backup copies for immortality research. In reality, they had been preparing for something much darker. "I'm accessing the most recent files," Dr. Illithid announced. "Government communications from the days before the disappearance." The holographic displays lit up with Korath text and images. To most of the investigation team, it was meaningless alien writing, but Captain Yunhai could read enough of it to understand what they were seeing. "These appear to be military deployment orders," Dr. Illithid translated. "Massive fleet movements, invasion preparations. They were planning to attack someone." "Who?" General Morak demanded. Dr. Illithid's tentacles worked faster across the interfaces. "The target designation is interesting. It's listed as Primitive Test Subject 7A. Location: coordinates match a system on the edge of explored space." Captain Yunhei's heart raced, but she kept her expression neutral. Those coordinates led to Earth's solar system. The Korath had been days away from launching their invasion when they vanished. "What kind of test?" Ambassador Krell asked nervously. "I'm accessing deeper files," Dr. Illithid replied. His voice grew troubled as he read the translations. "This is disturbing. They weren't planning a normal conquest. They were going to use this target species as subjects for consciousness transfer experiments." The chamber fell silent, except for the humming of the data cores. Captain Yunhai felt sick as she realized what the investigation team was learning. The Korath hadn't just planned to conquer Earth. They had planned to harvest human consciousness for their twisted research. "Consciousness transfer?" General Morak asked. "What does that mean?" According to these files, the Korath had developed technology to extract and digitize mental patterns. They could pull someone's thoughts, memories, and personality out of their brain and store it in computer systems. "For what purpose?" Ambassador Krell whispered. Dr. Illithid continued reading, his tentacles trembling with what might have been horror or fascination. "Multiple purposes: immortality for the ruling class, torture of enemies, control of slave populations. They could trap someone's consciousness and subject it to any experience they chose: pain, fear, false memories, anything. And they were going to test this on the primitive species they planned to attack. General Morak's warrior code was clearly offended by such dishonorable warfare. "More than test," Dr. Illithid said quietly. "According to this, they were going to harvest the entire population. Every man, woman, and child would have their consciousness extracted and stored. Their bodies would be disposed of and their minds would become property." Captain Yunhai closed her eyes briefly, imagining what would have happened if Earth hadn't acted first. Billions of humans trapped in digital hell, their bodies dead, their minds enslaved to Korath experiments that could last forever. "But, wait," Ambassador Krell said, his voice rising with a terrible realization. "If they had this technology, if they were using it for experiments, what happened to all the test subjects they already captured?" Dr. Illithid's large eyes grew even larger as he accessed deeper files. "Oh no. Oh no. What is it?" General Morak demanded. "There are storage records here. Consciousness patterns from dozens of species, millions of individuals. They've been conducting these experiments for decades, using captured prisoners and enslaved populations." The investigation team stood in horrified silence as the full scope of Korath crimes became clear. They hadn't just conquered other species. They had been digitally torturing them for generations. "Are they still active?" Captain Yunhai asked, though she already knew the answer. "The stored consciousness patterns, are they still running?" Bake. Rowe checked his scanners and nodded grimly. "Massive computational activity in the sublevels. Something is definitely running down there." Dr. Illithid led them deeper into the complex, following the energy signatures to a restricted area that required high-level clearance codes. The security systems recognized him as an authorized investigator and granted access to areas that had been hidden from normal view. What they found in the deepest levels would have driven some species mad. Rows upon rows of crystalline storage, units stretched into the distance, each one containing the trapped consciousness of someone who had been captured by the Korath. Status displays showed that the systems were still active, still running whatever programs had been loaded into them. How many? General Morak asked in a voice barely above a whisper. Computer estimates suggest approximately 50 million stored. Consciousness patterns, Dr. Illithid replied. From at least 30 different species. Some of these storage dates go back over a century. Captain Yoon Hai stared at the storage units and felt rage building inside her. Each crystal contained someone who had been torn from their body and trapped in a digital prison. They had been suffering for decades, while the Korath used them for entertainment and research. What kind of programs are running? She asked. Beck Rowe interfaced with one of the monitoring stations, his training allowing him to understand Korath computer systems better than he was supposed to. Various scenarios. Some appear to be pain simulation programs. Others are fear-based experiences. Some are more complex psychological torture systems designed to break down personality structures. For how long? Ambassador Krell demanded. Continuously. For decades in some cases. The consciousness patterns experience subjective time at accelerated rates. Someone stored for a year might have experienced centuries of whatever program they were subjected to. The moral weight of this discovery hit. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began at dawn on Nexus Prime. Representatives rushed through the crystal corridors, their voices mixing in dozens of languages as they shared impossible news. The mighty Korath hegemony, rulers of 200 star systems and the most powerful military force in the galaxy, had vanished. Supreme Chancellor Vera Thane called for order as beings filled the Great Dome. Her metallic skin looked pale in the early light, and her forearms trembled slightly as she activated the central hologram. Fellow council members, she began, we face an unprecedented crisis. 24 hours ago, all communication with the Korath hegemony ceased. Long-range sensors show their core systems are empty. The hologram displayed star maps showing Korath territory. Where mighty fleets should patrol and billions should live, there was only silence. Empty space stations drifted without power. Ships floated dead in the void. In the observer section, Captain Yoon Hai of the Earth delegation watched the proceedings with careful attention. She had been studying alien technology for 5 years, and what she was hearing made no sense. How? Does an entire civilization just disappear? Asked Ambassador Krell of the Theta Consortium, his reptilian head weaving nervously. Unknown, the Chancellor replied. Our fastest scouts have reached 3 Korath core worlds. No life signs detected, no signs of battle, no debris fields. The populations are simply gone. The dome erupted in frightened conversations. Representatives from dozens of species spoke at once, their translation devices creating a chaos of sound. If the unstoppable Korath could vanish overnight, what did that mean for everyone else? Captain Yoon Hai activated her recording devices and began documenting everything. Her official mission was to observe council proceedings and report back to Earth. Her real mission was much more complex. Could it be a weapon? Asked General Morak of the Centauri Defense Force. He was a warrior species, bred for battle, but even he looked nervous. What weapon could destroy 200 star systems without leaving evidence? Chancellor Vera Thane replied. There should be blast craters, radiation signatures, something. Instead, we find nothing. Could they have evacuated? Suggested Dr. Illithid of the Science Directorate. Evacuated to where? With what ships? Their entire fleet is missing too. Every vessel from fighter craft to their massive dreadnoughts. Gone. Captain Yoon Hai knew more than she was saying. 3 days ago, Earth's intelligence network had detected unusual activity in Korath space. Ships gathering in their home system. Massive energy signatures. Then suddenly silence. Her technical specialist, Beck Rowe, was analyzing the Council's sensor data through their ship's computers. He had been trained to understand alien technology that Earth wasn't supposed to possess. Through their private channel, he sent her a message that made her pulse quicken. Captain, I'm seeing energy patterns consistent with a consciousness transfer matrix. Massive scale. If someone activated their harvesting system across the entire empire, Captain Yun-hai maintained her neutral expression while processing this information. The Korath had been experimenting with consciousness transfer technology, the ability to extract and store mental patterns. It was supposed to be used for immortality research, but Earth's agents had suspected darker purposes. "I propose we launch a joint investigation," the Chancellor announced. "Representatives from multiple species will examine the Korath systems and attempt to determine what happened." "Absolutely not," declared Ambassador Krell. "Whatever destroyed the Korath might still be active. We should quarantine their entire territory and let their resources go to waste." This came from Minister Gorth of the Trade Federation, whose slug-like form pulsed with greed. The Korath controlled some of the richest systems in the galaxy. If they're truly gone, those worlds are available for colonization. The argument that followed revealed the ugly truth about galactic civilization. Fear and greed motivated most council species more than justice or curiosity. Some wanted to hide from whatever had destroyed the Korath. Others wanted to claim their territory and wealth. During a recess, Captain Yun-hai found herself approached by an unexpected visitor. Ambassador Zethka of the Altarian Republic was known for their advanced scientific knowledge and peaceful nature. Unlike most council species, they had always treated Earth's observers with courtesy rather than contempt. "Captain Yun," Ambassador Zethka said in perfect English, "might I speak with you privately?" They walked to a quiet observation deck overlooking the Crystal City. Other beings passed by without paying attention to the human and the tall, blue-skinned Altarian. "Your people have been asking many questions lately," Ambassador Zethka said carefully, "about consciousness transfer technology, about quantum matrix systems, about theoretical limits of mental energy storage." Captain Yun-hai kept her expression neutral. "We're a curious species. We like to learn about advanced technologies even if we can't understand or build them ourselves." Of course, Ambassador Zethka's large eyes studied her intently. "It's just interesting that you were asking about those specific technologies months before the Korath vanished. Almost as if you knew something might happen. Are you suggesting Earth had something to do with this?" Captain Yun-hai asked. "I'm suggesting your species is not as primitive as you pretend to be." Ambassador Zethka leaned closer. "The energy signatures from the Korath systems match theoretical predictions for a cascading consciousness matrix failure. Such a failure would trap every connected mind in an endless digital loop. It would be like eternal imprisonment." Captain Yun-hai felt cold despite the warm artificial sunlight. If Ambassador Zethka could figure this out, how long before others did? "That's a fascinating theory," she said carefully. "But even if such technology existed, surely the Korath would have safeguards against system failures. Unless someone who understood their systems better than they did introduced a carefully designed virus, someone who had been studying their technology for years, someone they underestimated." The two stood in silence for several minutes, watching ships move through the sky above the city. Finally, Ambassador Zethka spoke again. "The Korath were planning something terrible. Our intelligence services detected massive troop buildups and invasion preparations. They were going to attack someone, a species they considered too weak to resist. Do you know who? A small primitive planet on the edge of explored space, a species that had recently been denied council membership, a world full of beings who were supposedly too backward to be worth conquering except for resources and slave labor." Captain Yun-hai's blood ran cold. Earth. The Korath had been planning to invade Earth. "If that's true," she said slowly, "then whoever stopped them saved billions of lives." "Yes," Ambassador Zethka agreed. "They did." Back in the council dome, the debate continued. Most species were too frightened to investigate the Korath disappearance properly. They wanted to pretend it hadn't happened and hoped the same fate didn't befall them, but a few voices spoke for action. Captain Yun-hai was surprised when Supreme Chancellor Vera Thane announced the investigation team roster. "The joint investigation will be led by the Science Directorate, with military support from the Centauri Defense Force. Additional technical specialists will be provided by the Altarian Republic, the Theta Consortium, and..." She paused, looking toward the observer section. "Earth." The announcement caused a stir. Several species protested that humans were too primitive to contribute to such an important investigation. Others argued that Earth's observer status didn't qualify them for active participation. Earth has requested permission to examine the Korath systems, the Chancellor continued. Given their observer status and their recent focus on consciousness transfer research, we believe their perspective might prove valuable. Captain Yoon-hae stood when recognized. Earth accepts this responsibility. We will contribute our ship and crew to the investigation effort. What she didn't say was that Earth had already examined the Korath systems. Their agents had been studying Korath technology for 3 years. They knew exactly what had happened and why. As the session ended, Captain Yoon-hae received a coded message from Earth. Director Han-woo's instructions were simple. Maintain cover. Learn what others suspect. Reveal nothing. The investigation would take them directly into Korath space, to worlds that had been home to the galaxy's most powerful empire. They would walk through empty cities and explore abandoned ships. They would analyze the technology that had been used to harvest the consciousness of entire species. And they would have to pretend they were seeing it all for the first time. The next morning, a fleet of investigation ships left Nexus Prime. Earth's contribution was a small research vessel with a crew of 12 humans. To the other species, it looked like exactly what it claimed to be, a scientific ship crewed by primitives who were probably in over their heads. None of them suspected that the primitive ship carried scanning equipment more advanced than anything the Council possessed. None of them knew that the human crew included agents who had been trained to recognize and operate Korath technology. 3 years had passed since Earth's rejection from the Galactic Council. To most of the galaxy, humans remained a curiosity, primitive traders from a backwater planet who somehow managed to build ships that could cross between stars. They sold simple goods and asked many questions but posed no threat to anyone. Deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, Dr. Lee Min stood before a weapon that could destroy cities. The laboratory around her hummed with alien technology, reverse-engineered, and rebuilt by human hands. Scientists and engineers worked at stations filled with equipment that shouldn't exist on a Tier 7 world. Status report, she said to her assistant, a young man named Cho Sam who had been studying Korath energy systems for 2 years. The beam cannon is operational, Cho Sam replied, checking his displays. We've managed to improve the efficiency. By 12%, the Korath design was powerful but wasteful. Lee Min nodded. Humans had always been good at making things work better with less. It was a skill born from having limited resources and unlimited problems. Now that skill was being applied to weapons that could crack moons. What about the defensive systems? She asked. Shield generators are online in 7 facilities across the planet. They're hidden inside fake factories and power plants. From orbit, they look like normal industrial sites. Lee Min walked to the main display, which showed a map of Earth covered in small dots. Each dot was a hidden military installation, built while the galaxy thought humans were still struggling with basic technology. Weapons factories disguised as car plants, shield generators hidden in shopping centers, training facilities buried under farms. Commander Oh Jin entered the lab wearing civilian clothes. To any alien observer, he looked like a businessman. In reality, he commanded special forces units that could fight in any environment, against any enemy. The new recruits are ready, he told Lee Min. We have teams prepared for deployment to 15 different star systems. They speak the local languages and know the customs. Most importantly, they know how to stay invisible. How many? Lee Min asked. 300 operatives, ready for long-term deep cover assignments. They can pose as traders, refugees, or tourists. Some have undergone genetic modification to look like other species. Lee Min felt a chill at that. The genetic modification program was necessary, but it asked a lot from the volunteers. They would live for years pretending to be aliens, gathering information and building networks. Many would never see Earth again. Any word from our current agents? She asked. Oh Jin nodded. Agent Park Jun reports from the Korath home system. They're planning something big. Military exercises have increased by 300% in the last month. Their fleet commanders are being recalled for secret briefings. What kind of something big? He's not sure yet. But the Korath are building new ships. Ships designed for planetary invasion, not just space combat. Li Min felt her stomach tighten. She had feared this day would come. The Korath had been expanding their empire for decades, conquering species after species. Most gave up without fighting, knowing resistance was hopeless. But recently, their expansion had slowed. They were looking for new targets. How long do we have? She asked. Park Jun thinks maybe a year, maybe less. Li Min turned to the display showing Earth. From space, it looked peaceful. Cities glowed with light, ships moved between the planet and its orbital stations, and everything seemed normal. The galaxy saw exactly what humans wanted them to see. A quiet, harmless world full of primitives who were no threat to anyone. They had no idea that those orbital stations were actually military platforms. The civilian ships carried hidden weapons. The cities were protected by shield generators that could stop planet-killing beams. And deep underground, factories worked day and night to build weapons that could fight the galaxy's strongest empire. Send a message to Director Han Wu, Li Min said. Tell him it's time to activate the sleeper networks. 1,000 light-years away, Han Wu sat in what looked like a small trading post on the edge of Korath space. He wore simple clothes and drank alien coffee that tasted like burnt metal. To anyone watching, he was just another human trader trying to make deals with more advanced species. The message from Earth arrived through channels that didn't officially exist. Han Wu read it twice, then deleted it from his systems. He walked outside and looked up at the alien stars. In a few hours, he would begin a process that would change everything. His trading post was actually the headquarters for Earth's intelligence network. Hidden throughout the galaxy, human agents posed as merchants, diplomats, refugees, and workers. They had been building this network for 3 years, ever since the humiliation at the council meeting. The aliens never suspected because humans were supposed to be primitive. Who would imagine that the weak little species from Earth was running spy operations across half the galaxy? Han Wu activated his communication system and began sending coded messages. Each message looked like a simple business transaction. Orders for goods, shipping schedules, payment confirmations. But embedded in the commercial data were instructions that would wake up sleeper agents on dozens of worlds. On the industrial world of Theron 5, a human woman named Song Hee received a message about delayed shipments. She owned a small restaurant that served food to alien workers. Her customers had no idea she was recording their conversations and mapping their military installations. The message told her to begin Phase 2 of her mission. On the gas mining stations of Nebula Keth, a human man named Yoon Hai worked as a maintenance engineer. His real job was monitoring communication traffic between alien species. The message he received looked like a job offer from another mining company. It actually contained instructions to prepare for active operations. Across the galaxy, similar messages reached similar agents. Humans who had lived for years as traders, workers, and wanderers were being activated for a mission none of them fully understood. They only knew it was important enough for Earth to risk exposing them. Meanwhile, on Earth itself, changes were happening that few people noticed. Emergency drills became more frequent. New factories opened in remote locations. Young people were recruited for space exploration programs that were actually military training. Park Sua had returned from the council meeting changed. The humiliation and threats had focused her mind on a single goal, making sure Earth would never be helpless again. She now commanded a military force that officially didn't exist. Status of the fleet? She asked her aide, Lieutenant Nam Jun. As they walked through a facility that was supposed to be a weather research station, 200 combat vessels operational, Nam Jun reported. Hidden in asteroid fields behind moons and in the outer system. From any distance, they look like mining ships or research stations. Weapons. Each ship carries modified Korath, beam weapons, improved shield generators, and something new. Stealth technology based on quantum mechanics we learned from the Altarian traders. Park Sua smiled grimly. The Altarians had sold humans educational materials about quantum physics, thinking they were helping primitive minds understand basic science. They had no idea humans were using their lessons to build invisibility systems. What? About ground forces? 50,000 Special Forces troops trained in alien combat techniques. They can fight in any environment: vacuum, underwater, high gravity, low gravity, toxic atmospheres. Most importantly, they're trained to fight enemies who are physically stronger and more advanced. How? Speed, intelligence, and unpredictability. The same advantages humans have always used against bigger predators. Park Sua nodded. Throughout human history, their species had survived by being smarter and more adaptable than their enemies. Now they were applying those same skills to galactic warfare. Kim Day had also been busy since returning from the council. His job was understanding alien psychology, how they thought, what they feared, what mistakes they made. He had spent 3 years studying every species in the galaxy, looking for weaknesses. The Korath have a problem, he told his research team during a briefing at a facility disguised as a university. They're too confident. They've been the strongest species for so long that they've forgotten how to be careful. What do you mean? Asked Dr. Shinbo, his lead analyst. They don't expect resistance. When they attack a world, they use overwhelming force because it's easier than strategy. They've never had to fight an enemy that could really hurt them. And that's a weakness. It's the biggest weakness possible. They've become lazy. Their tactics are predictable. Most importantly, they underestimate everyone else. Kim Day pulled up a display showing Korath military formations. Look at this. It's the same pattern they've used for the last 50 years. Massive ships in direct assault formation, with smaller vessels providing support. It works against species that panic and surrender. But what if they faced an enemy that didn't? What if they faced an enemy that fought back intelligently? Dr. Shinbo asked. Then they'd be in trouble. They have more power than anyone else, but power isn't everything. Sometimes intelligence beats strength. Sometimes patience beats force. Sometimes the weak can defeat the strong if they're smart enough. As Kim Day spoke, he was thinking about Earth's history, how small groups of fighters had defeated massive armies, how clever tactics had overcome superior numbers, how the massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council stretched across the sky like a frozen rainbow. Inside, beings from 800 different worlds sat in curved rows that went up and up until they disappeared in the bright lights above. Han Wu stood at the center of it all, feeling very small. His dark blue uniform felt tight around his shoulders. The earth patch on his sleeve seemed tiny compared to the glowing symbols and floating holograms that marked the other species. Behind him, Park Sua adjusted her military jacket and tried not to show her anger. Kim Day held his datapad with steady hands, but Han Wu could see the scientist was nervous too. The Supreme Chancellor rose from her crystal throne. She was tall and thin, with 4 arms and skin that looked like polished metal. When she spoke, her words came through the translation device in Han Wu's ear. We gather today to consider the petition of the species called humans. She paused, and Han Wu heard what sounded like laughter from the upper levels. From the planet they call Earth. A hologram appeared above them, showing Earth spinning, slowly. It looked beautiful to Han Wu, with its blue oceans and white clouds. But he could hear the whispers starting all around the dome. Only one planet? Still using chemical rockets? Do they even have shields? The Chancellor raised one of her hands and the noise stopped. The application has been reviewed by the Technology Assessment Board. Earth's civilization is classified as pre-industrial Tier 7. More laughter now, louder than before. Han Wu kept his face calm, but inside he felt hot with shame. Tier 7 was almost the bottom. Only species that had just discovered fire were ranked lower. A new voice boomed across the dome. It came from a section where massive beings sat on golden chairs. They looked like humans, but bigger and stronger, with skin that seemed to glow with inner light. Their leader stood up, and Han Wu could feel power radiating from him even at this distance. Supreme Chancellor, the being said, surely we are not seriously considering these primitives for council membership. The Chancellor nodded toward him. General Corvin of the Korath hegemony has the floor. General Corvin stepped forward, and the air around him shimmered. These humans still fight wars with metal bullets. They poison their own air and water. Half their planet lives in poverty while the other half wastes resources. He gestured dismissively. They are barely past the Stone Age. Hanwoo felt Park Sua tense behind him, but he placed a slight hand signal behind his back. Wait. Not yet. Their fastest ships take years to cross their own solar system. General Corvin continued. We could conquer their entire world with a single battleship. Why would we grant them membership in the most powerful organization in the galaxy? The laughter was louder now. Some species were pointing at the humans and making sounds that the translator couldn't interpret. Hanwoo noticed which ones were, laughing the hardest. He would remember them. The Supreme Chancellor looked down at Hanwoo. Human Ambassador, you may respond to these concerns. Hanwoo stepped forward. His voice was calm and clear when he spoke. Thank you, Supreme Chancellor. We understand that Earth appears weak compared to the great civilizations represented here. He looked up at General Corvin. We do not claim to be strong. We do not threaten anyone. We simply ask for the chance to learn and grow alongside the galaxy's great species. Learn what? General Corvin laughed. How to beg properly? How to serve your betters? The Korath section erupted in laughter. Other species joined in. Hanwoo waited for it to die down, then continued. We offer what we have. Our music, our art, our stories, our different ways of thinking. Perhaps diversity has value, even if it comes without great power. Diversity? General Corvin's voice turned cold. There is only one thing that matters. In this galaxy, strength. The strong rule, the weak serve. That is the natural order. He made a gesture with his hand, and the hologram above them changed. Now it showed a small moon orbiting a distant planet. The moon was gray and lifeless, covered in craters. Observe, General Corvin said. A beam of pure light shot down from somewhere, above the dome. It struck the moon and the hologram. For a moment nothing happened. Then cracks appeared across the moon's surface. They spread like breaking glass. The moon came apart in slow motion, breaking into thousands of pieces that drifted away into space. The dome fell silent. Hanwoo stared at the floating debris that had once been a moon. The message was clear. This is what happened to things that got in the Korath's way. That moon was the size of your largest cities, General Corvin said softly. We destroyed it with one shot from a single ship, from a distance of 50 light years. This is the difference between strength and weakness. Hanwoo nodded slowly. Very impressive, General. Thank you for the demonstration. His calm response seemed to surprise General Corvin, who had probably expected fear or anger. Behind Hanwoo, Kim Dae was recording everything with sensors hidden in his clothes. Park Sua was memorizing the energy patterns she had seen. The moon's destruction had told them more about Korath weapons than months of spying could have. The Supreme Chancellor spoke again. The Council will now vote on Earth's application for full membership. The result was not surprising. Out of 847 species, only 12 voted in favor of human membership. Most voted against. Many didn't vote at all, which meant they saw humans as too unimportant to care about. The application is denied, the Supreme Chancellor announced. However, the Council recognizes that Earth has achieved interstellar travel. You are granted observer status. You may attend Council meetings and trade with member species, but you have no vote and no voice in Council decisions. Hanwoo bowed slightly. We are grateful for this opportunity to observe and learn. As the session ended, beings began filing out of the dome. Many passed close to the human delegation, and Hanwoo heard their comments. Observer status is too much for primitives. They'll be extinct within a generation. The Korath will probably conquer them for sport. But some voices were different. A few beings looked at the humans with what might have been sympathy. Others seemed thoughtful, as if wondering why these weak creatures had traveled so far just to be insulted. General Corvin approached them as they prepared to leave. Up close, he was even more intimidating. His golden armor hummed with energy, and his eyes glowed with inner fire. Human, he said to Hanwoo, you should understand something. Observer status will not protect you. When we decide your world has resources we need, we will take them. Your people can choose to serve or to die. There will be no other options. Hanwoo met his gaze steadily. I understand, General. Thank you for making your position clear. General Corvin seemed surprised again by the calm response. He leaned closer. You are either very brave or very stupid, human. Perhaps both, Hanwoo replied with a slight smile. The Korath general studied him for a long moment, then turned and walked away. His golden boots rang on the crystal floor like hammers on an anvil. When the humans were alone, Park Sua finally spoke. That was humiliating. Yes, Hanwoo agreed. It was meant to be. The Korath general threatened to conquer. Earth, Kim Dae added quietly. Yes, he did. Hanwoo looked back at the empty dome. Did you record the energy signature from their weapon? Kim Dae nodded. Everything. The beam composition, the targeting system, even the ship's position. I think I can backtrack their technology. Good. And Park Sua, what did you think of their military formation? The military strategist was quiet for a moment. Impressive, but not perfect. They rely too much on raw power. Their tactics are straightforward, almost simple. They expect enemies to be afraid. What if the enemy isn't afraid? Park Sua smiled for the first time since the session began. Then they might have problems. Hanwoo nodded. They walked toward their ship in silence. Around them, the crystal city of Nexus Prime stretched toward the stars. Beings from hundreds of worlds went about their business, trading and talking and living their lives. None of them paid attention to three humans from a weak little planet, at the edge of nowhere. That was exactly what Hanwoo wanted. As their ship lifted off, he looked down at the glittering city below. Set course for Earth, he told the pilot, and send a message ahead. Tell them we have work to do, the galaxy. Thought Earth was weak. They were about to discover how wrong they were.